Welcome to episode 7 of Lex Manifest. My name is Lex. This is my manifestation. Today's episode is called the Victim-Victimizer Blame Game. This is a topic I will probably revisit on multiple episodes because it's something that's running quite rampant amongst the human population. So what exactly is the Victim-Victimizer Blame Game? One person appears to be the aggressor, so that makes the other person the victim, right? Well, maybe on the surface level, that's one way it can be perceived. But what about circumstances where all parties involved feel like the victim? And if we dial it back to the simple truth that everyone at all times is perceiving everything in a different way, then that means more than one truth can exist at the same time. And here's a really fun one. For any energetic reality that anyone holds, that means they also hold the opposite expression within themselves. Kind of like the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. We each hold the energy of creation and passion and love, and we simultaneously hold the energy of destruction and darkness and harm. Each and every one of us chooses in every moment which energy we will entertain and which energy we will outwardly express. So how does that relate to the victim-victimizer blame game? If you are holding the energetic reality of victimhood, that means you are simultaneously holding the energetic reality of victimization at the same time. Anytime you're in a state where you feel like one or the other, whether it's the victim or the victimizer, if you feel like one, you're actually being both. One cannot exist without the other. And as we become more accountable for our own experiences and start to really understand the energetic reality that what we perceive around us is simply a projection of what's going on inside of us, the more we take our personal power back. And we can not only recognize when disempowering cycles are running within us, we can actively disengage and shift the script for ourselves and the people around us. The victim-victimizer blame game, to put it simply, is exactly what it sounds like. There's a victim, there's a victimizer, there's some sort of blame happening, and it's a game. The configurations and the mechanics of this reality show up in a ton of different ways, and some are really obvious, and some are quite subtle. It typically shows up as arguments, and these arguments are designed to be never-ending. You may notice some fights literally seem to go nowhere. This is by design. This is the game. This is the energy that ensnares people in a lower frequency and prevents authentic connection and drives distance between self and others. The game also doesn't require 2 or more people to exist. We can play out scenarios in our own minds and have this energy on repeat and not even ever need to involve another person. So how do we step out of these cycles, both with ourselves and with other people? Here's 5 ways that can be accomplished. 1. Mindfulness. Catching yourself when you're holding the energy or telling yourself a story that makes you the victim of something outside of yourself, or feeling like you need to make somebody else wrong about something, or you absolutely need to be right about something. Needing to be right oftentimes means somebody else has to be wrong. And notice when the energy starts to shift internally. Notice when the negative energy or mind games or blame or feeling like somebody owes you something, when that energy first starts to run. There's a distinct energetic difference between the energy of harmony and the feeling of disconnect and blame. You can teach yourself to catch yourself when the yuck starts to creep up, and you can choose how to respond, and if you even need to respond at all. It's a lot easier said than done, but with practice, just like anything else, noticing the energy as it arises and shifting it into something more desirable gets easier and easier over time. The second way to step off the cycles is accountability. Own your shit. If you aren't showing up as your best self, what can you do to choose differently? If you look at everything in your life as if it was by your conscious design, that's when you truly take your power back. Yes, things that are outside of our control happen all the time, but we are always a single decision from an entirely different life. And it doesn't need to be that drastic. The decisions don't need to be life-changing, but we're always one decision or one thought or one way of looking at things away from a completely different experience. Every day we choose what we do and we live the consequences. Everything around you right now is a consequence of the decisions that you have made. And that's for positive or not so great, but it's still there by your design and by your choice. Of course, we can't control other people, but we have full control over ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and how we're showing up in the world. The more accountable you become, the less you blame anyone or anything for anything at all. And when it's necessary, you simply shift yourself for a different outcome. The third way to get off the cycles is humor. There is not a single person on this planet who is immune from the victim-victimizer blame game. We all at one point feel like others or the universe owes us something, and we all show up as our less than ideal selves. I know for me, it's a lot less heavy when I can look for and find the humor in most situations. I laugh at myself on the regular. No matter how many self-help books I've read or inspirational quotes I post on Instagram, I still fall back into my old patterns all the time. For as long as I live, there will always be room to grow. And I'd personally rather spend that time in those weird junctures of growth laughing and bringing in an energy of lightness to my experience, rather than being mean to myself for being human. And the same can be said for when arguing with another person. That person is precious and doing the best they can, even if you think they're completely wrong. And even if they trigger the hell out of us. If we can find a way to laugh about it with a lightness and obviously respectfully, but even better, laugh at it with that other person, it really does shift things in a magical way. Of course, not everybody is open to that reality, and sometimes people are too in their stuff to really pull themselves out and get into that space of humor, and that's okay. It's not the only way to step off the cycles. Another really powerful way is validating each other's perspectives. As I said in the beginning, we all perceive things completely differently, and that's in every single moment at all times. Different perspectives are valid. Even when you think they're wrong, try understanding, ask questions. Don't listen to respond, listen to understand what this person in front of you is saying, and try to understand why they think the way they do. Another really big way to get off the cycles is looking for win-win solutions. They always exist no matter what. And even if there is some compromise, there's always a way to find mutually beneficial outcomes to everything. And I truly believe that, no matter how differing the opinions may be. At the end of the day, some relationships are not mutually beneficial, or they inspire not so great things in one another. And maybe there were attempts at repair and it's just not getting there. It's okay to let those people go without placing value judgment on that person. Just because you couldn't reach a mutual agreement does not mean that they're wrong. And it doesn't mean that they're any less valuable. You simply are not in alignment with one another, and that is perfectly okay. More often than not, when the victim-victimizer blame game starts to run, it's an incredibly ripe juncture for introspection and learning more about ourselves if we're willing to take a good look at what is showing up and our role in creating it, and if and why we are choosing to perpetuate that energy. So as a quick recap, 5 ways you can step off the merry-go-round victim-victimizer blame game party is mindfulness, accountability, humor, validating each other's perspectives, and looking for win-win solutions. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode today. I hope you found some value here. And I hope that next time when this victim-victimizer blame game, weird argument, making me right, you wrong, when these things start to pop up internally in your own mind and externally when you're communicating with someone else, my hope is that these tools can be helpful and effective in helping people to shift the script and have more harmonious experiences within their own minds and with each other. Each and every one of us is amazing in one way or another, and we all have our strengths and we all have our lessons, and everyone who shows up in your paradigm is there for a reason. And oftentimes, the people who trigger us the most are holding some of the most precious gifts for us to truly know ourselves. I'll catch you on the next episode.